Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. Today I'm talking about something that I've not talked about almost a year and a half. It's coming up with a year and a half when all of this had happened. It's been 2 months since I've tried to film this like multiple times. I've either gotten really emotional, had a lot of anxiety before filming it, had no idea what to say, what to kind of formulate the video into, but I've come to the conclusion that I don't want to make this video like 30-40 minutes long, so I'm going to link some videos in the description if you're unfamiliar with the past year and a half and what's all happened. A lot of it's been great, but the thing I'm going to specifically talk about is something that a lot of you probably have never experienced, or maybe a slight amount of you have heard of other people who've gone through it. I am just going to be honest about what's happened, and hopefully I can shed some light on it and make people feel less ashamed if they have struggled with something like this in the past, or something completely different in the mental health category. So I know what your story is, but I know what my story is, and I think it's part of my mission on earth to just share my continuous testimony of how God has worked in my life through the ups and the downs. And this happens to be one of those downs in my life that I am not going through anymore. So I don't want to scare anyone with this video or with the just title of Bipolar Mania, because that's the episode that I had and what I went through, and I'll explain all the things that came with it. I feel like bipolar and manic episodes, if you've never heard of any of those, people just come up with assumptions. People just come up with assumptions that those people are crazy, or that's forever gonna be them, and they're defined by their disorder, or they're defined by their mental illness. And I don't think that's the story, and I just want to tell mine because I think I'm ready. For the longest time, I just didn't want to talk about it. I was like, oh, that's just a small part of my life that I can just brush off, because no one needs to know that I went through that thing that's probably totally unrelatable to a lot of people. But that's not the case. I don't think bipolar mania or bipolar depression has really been talked about that much. So I told myself I wasn't going to talk a lot in the beginning, prefacing the whole thing, but I did. So there you go. If you want to get the backstory of things leading up to this, I recommend watching the 3 videos down below. I kind of made update videos throughout the course of time, and I was kind of vague throughout it because I wanted to be respectful towards certain people in my life, but I'll open up a little bit more about all the things that had happened. So long story short, beforehand, before all this had happened, my manic episode, in the fall of 2016, I had gone to college in California. I'm from Illinois, so my dad and I drove all the way out to California, and I had gone there for 3 weeks. It was awesome, but the last week, or going into the 4th week, God really spoke to me in a church, and it was Harvest Church. I don't know if you guys know where that church is, but I was in Riverside, California. He specifically called me out of the relationship that I was in, and it really shook me because I didn't want to leave that relationship. So along with that, I'm not quite sure if this caused all these problems, but I think a lot of it was all related. I couldn't eat whatsoever, but when I forced myself to, like, I would throw it up, and this went on for days, and I couldn't sleep throughout the night. I was just constantly things going through my mind, a lot of anxiety. I flew back to Illinois thinking I was going to go back to college after that weekend, because I was there for a weekend, and then everything just kind of got worse. And I decided, I came to the end of myself after a month of saying, okay, is this what God really wants? I think it was just me being selfish about like not wanting to let that relationship go. And then while having all these other issues on the side, I decided to break it off. But that breakup wasn't easy, and going through, I think, those 2.5 months of just depressing thoughts, anxious thoughts, and literally having panic attacks and just getting dizzy, lightheaded. It sounds very dramatic. So it took some time to kind of like get over that. And then I started seeing a counselor, and she helped me so much just realize that my life was very like all over the place. I was putting a lot of energy here, but like with health-wise, I wasn't feeding myself. And so that's a little bit more intricately of what happened within that time, because I've said vaguely in videos that, oh, a relationship ended and blah, blah, blah. But then in December, I was getting very excited about this conference that was coming up, which is Passion Conference. It's for 18 to 24-year-olds, which I was 18, so I was pumped about it. I think I was 18, or yeah, about to turn 19. I had previously met this guy named Nick over social media through Twitter, and you guys can watch my other videos of how we met and everything, because we're dating now. But during that time, he was just a really great friend to me, and he lived in Florida, I lived in Illinois, and we would talk over the phone. And then we met at Passion, and I met a lot of great people at Passion from social media that I've been wanting to talk to forever and wanting to meet, because they just had great influence on my life and motivated me towards what mattered. And all throughout this time, I had been taking depression medication, and when I went to Passion, I kind of just forgot to take it, or thought I was doing really well, that I just threw it to the side. I shouldn't have done that, because it's not really good for humans to come off of medicine cold turkey, in my opinion. At least that's what all the doctors have said to me that I've gone to. Also, I don't think that was the sole reason that I went into a manic episode. I stayed with a friend in Atlanta as well for 14 days, which is crazy, but I wasn't going to school, and she hadn't gone to school as well, but she has a job that's pretty flexible. So we had a lot of fun, just like getting to know each other and stuff. And then at the end, like the 14 days, we went to this event called The Alternative, which some of my friends started. It was awesome. And then this is kind of when a lot of the signs of like mania started happening. I would just stay up throughout the night, like not thinking I needed sleep. And these things logically made sense to me, but from outside people, they recognized these things within inside me that just weren't normal. And so this was one of them. My friend that I was staying with in Atlanta noticed that I was staying up a lot, just kind of like being very fast-paced with how I talk, and I wasn't really acting normal in the sense of Chelsea, how she normally is, and like hyper manic Chelsea. So, and then also there, I had thought that Nick, which we weren't dating at this time, we didn't start dating until February, I just really cared for him, and I saw his location, because we're on Find My Friends app. I'm sure you guys do that with a lot of your friends. I saw that he was on the side of a highway somewhere, and he didn't answer my call, and I thought he got in a car accident. Like, I immediately assumed that there was something bad that had happened. And so when I thought he was in a car accident and he wasn't calling me, I started crying, thinking that he died. I think it really does have to do with the fact that whenever you meet someone or you have a friend that you really love and deeply care about, that you're concerned about them, you worry about them, but this was to a high extent. So that was just unusual. That was one of the first signs of, okay, there's something off with her. A lot of the things that I wanted to do constantly was just read a lot of books and say that, oh my gosh, this is really speaking to me a lot, and I always thought like different things were speaking to me. The one big thing with bipolar manic people when they get diagnosed with that, or they have an episode, they think they're really special in certain moments, and I just thought that I guess I had some connection to God that other people didn't. It was my version of reality twisted with actually like reading a lot of truth and all this. I was interpreting things wrong, which can be dangerous when you're sharing that with people. I've taken the Word of God so much more seriously now. Not every verse applies to today. I just wasn't really cautious with the context of things because I was so in my own head. So coming home from that trip was a 9-hour drive, and I had been talking to a big group of people on a group message, just really freaking them out with things that I would say. and just thinking that a lot of things are signs of something. Sometimes billboards are just billboards and signs are just signs. It's not like a sign of something deep or spiritual. That's when all those people got really concerned, because I had talked to them kind of on a regular basis, and I was texting people in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m., 5 a.m. because I didn't sleep, didn't think I needed it. And they were concerned because that's just not a normal thing to do. I would call people in the middle of the night, and this was all the mania part of it. One of the examples of the depression part of it was, you know, your mood goes from here to here, and that was whenever I called Nick thinking that he had died. Another example of mania was whenever I was on the way home from Atlanta. I had gone to this bookstore, this Christian bookstore, and I had bought almost $1,000 worth of books because I kept thinking of other people and how this would apply to their life and how it would help them, and I just didn't even think about the amount of money. And while I know I had good intentions, I just can't afford that much books. And so when I came home and I showed up with all these bags of things and tried to explain it to my parents, they're like, okay, there's something up with her. And my mom had previously been talking to some of my friends that had noticed things in me. And so they had already been very cautious about how I was. And if you look at the signs of mania, all that sort of stuff, one of the big things is going on shopping sprees or spending sprees, and this was one of them for me. And then I came home and started handing out these books to different people. And while there was fruit in that, there was people who said, you know, this book really helped me with this, or thank you for giving me this, that was very kind of you. They didn't know that I had spent $1,000 on books for people. Like, so that's just weird. That's one of the things that I was like looking back and saying, okay, yeah. And I want to make this clear, I am no longer bipolar manic. I have been taking medication ever since, and I needed to, I guess, regulate my mood, which there's nothing wrong with medicine and the aid of that. But when it came to going to the hospital, because there was a point where I was admitted to an inpatient program. The reason that I was like okay with even going to the hospital at first was because I thought I was gonna go and hang out with the cancer patients, like the young cancer patients, and do their makeup, because I've always wanted to do that. It's been a couple years since my friend Tally has passed away, and she had cancer, and ever since then I've just wanted to go to a hospital and do makeup on cancer patients. And so whenever I went to the hospital and they were driving me over there, that's what I thought that was gonna happen. I ended up in an inpatient program, and I was very angry and upset with my parents once I actually figured out what I was there for, because I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I thought I was completely fine. That's when I kind of saw a little bit of, okay, these people are concerned about me. Like, is there something wrong with me? But I was so low on sleep, and it was very late at night, and the people who were there giving medicine to all the patients, they knew exactly the medication they give to me that would help me sleep, but also regulate my mood so I wasn't all over the place. During that time, I ate a lot. I ate so much food. They had pretty good food, but so I had finally started getting my appetite back because this medicine like really helped me, and all these people who were there had different stories, and I became friends with some of them. And there was one guy that almost was like a brother to me. He was super tall, looked like a basketball player, and I think he was there for suicidal thoughts, which is a very common thing that people get admitted to an inpatient program for. There was also a woman who I roomed with, she was so awesome. She called me Bella, which I believe is beautiful in Italian, and it was just so sweet. She was so sweet to me. She was almost like a mother in the inpatient program. Over the few days that I was there, I realized that all these people are broken, just like you and I. These people have something mentally up with them, or they have some sort of addiction. So inpatient, I gained a little weight because I was eating all the time. Medication did that to me. And I grew close to a lot of people. Inpatient is not what I thought it was. It's not like this mental psych ward. It's like crazy people everywhere. So we weren't allowed to have phones. We weren't even allowed to have like pencils. They had to be these bendy pencils that they allowed us to use, and usually they would watch us. I can't tell you the amount of puzzles I put together. I wasn't getting any communication with the outside world, really. In the hospital, Nick would write me letters, and those helped me a lot. I remember the first phone call, I tried to call him on the little payphone that we had. Not payphone, but they had like a house phone, I guess. He was on a tractor because it was blueberry season at his house. He lives on a farm where they grow blueberries. He couldn't hear me, and I remember being so heartbroken that the one time I could call him, he couldn't talk. He ended up calling me back later, and then the next couple of days he continued to call me, and it just gave me something to look forward to, because I really liked this guy, even though I guess you could title me crazy at this point in my life. He saw past that. He just prayed a lot for me, and he let me know that he was praying for me. And then my parents would come to visit, and it would be good to see them after like 2 days of being upset and frustrated. And then there was a couple days where I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to exercise. So the one guy friend that I considered like a brother there just jogged around the place with me, and it's really tiny, like it's not very big. There's just like individual rooms that you have a roommate with, or you might stay with yourself depending on your like condition. After 7 days I got to leave, and I was very excited to leave. Like by that time I was like, okay, I get it. There's something up with me. I'm glad I'm getting help. I know there's other places I have to work on in my life that need some help. I knew that this was the journey of getting over it. So after inpatient, my parents wanted me to go to outpatient, and not every person who goes to inpatient has to go to outpatient, but outpatient is pretty much where you go 2 to 3 times a week to another building where a lot of those people had previously been at a hospital or been at the same program that I was at previously, and they just like gradually continue to get help. I did this for I think around 3 weeks. We did group therapy. I met with a psychiatrist where they were monitoring my medicine, because that's one of the #1 reasons that a lot of people go to outpatient, because they want to make sure that they're on the right medication, get it leveled out. And so after that, the next couple months were just healing, realizing all the things that I had said to people, all the things that I had done out of mania, out of depression. And that's the worst moment, I think, is when you realize all the things that you had said and done, and all the things that other people had said about you, and they did it out of concern, but in that moment you're just like, you want to say sorry to these people like multiple times. There were so many different things that had happened, like stories of like mania and depression, but a lot of them I just don't remember. Honestly, I think part of me just wants to forget it, but I know that it's just a part of my journey. So in February, after I had got out of outpatient, and a couple weeks after, Nick decided to come up to Illinois and finally asked me to be his girlfriend. I think he wanted to make sure that I was okay first, and that I was in my right mind before I said yes to being someone's girlfriend, which I totally get that. I think that was a smart move. And it was a great day. Like, I was so glad that that happened, and honestly felt like a movie, which I know sounds very cheesy, but I'm just glad I had him in my life, my parents in my life, and those certain friends that continued to have a relationship with me. Although a lot of it was funny. A lot of the things that I did that I look back was funny now that I can laugh at it, but in the moment it was serious, and my parents and my family dealt with me. That was hard for them. It wasn't easy for them. So that's pretty much it. I don't consider myself bipolar, because I have not had any sign of any of that ever since then. It was just an episode that had gone on for a couple weeks, and just until previously, anytime someone would bring it up or just touch on the subject, I would get very offended and just blow it off and say I don't want to talk about that. But I'm to the point where I'm fine with it. I'm fine talking about it. I don't think I'm any different than anyone else, because it's just a part of my story. But if any of you want to comment questions, or you have a similar story, or you have questions about bipolar or mania or depression, I think that I've had enough personal experience with those things to be able to help in some sort of way. Although I won't have all the answers, hopefully I can help with some. I'm not really sure how this video resonated with you, or if you even watched to the end. If you did watch till the end, let me know that you watched till the end, because I think that's really cool that you stuck here. Anyone else who has gone through something similar, you could probably understand that it's rough to look back on. Sometimes you just want to ignore it or don't talk about it, but I had recently just shared it with my small group, and it was so scary because I never shared it in a group before. So I hope you guys have a great day or night, whatever it is, and I will see you guys in my next video. That will be not about this. It'll be about something happy, although this is not very sad, it's just a story, but it was partially sad. Anyways, enough talking. I'll see you guys soon. Deuces.